Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 15th day of July 2025. And in studio I have Mheshimiwa Anthony Kibagendi, who is the Member of Parliament for Kitutu Churches South. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
Gadano Mushumba is the Member of Parliament for Githunguri constituency. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
And Karoli Omondi is the Member of Parliament for Suba South. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
And Mary Kitani is the Member of Parliament for Aldai. Good morning.
Good morning, Marianne.
What did I say?
Mary.
Oh, sorry. Marianne. Okay. Apologies for that.
Okay.
Thank you so much for making time for us to have a conversation here in studio. And this morning we're waking up to the news on the front page of the Daily Nation about reckless talk of what has been happening with the political class. You'll see some of the quotations of the latest being the woman representative for Wajir, who has been quoted as saying, when it comes to the president, we say 2 terms. We're just waiting for the ballot. Even if we don't have enough votes, we will still for him. That's no secret. The other story we highlighted is that of DIG Lagarde, who is said to have stepped aside on July 16th. Well, that's not possible. I just noticed that there's a mistake there because July 16th is tomorrow. He must have stepped aside in June 16th this year, but reported to have gone back to work yesterday. Now, I want us to begin there, the point of reckless talk that is highlighted by the Daily Nation, but also the voices that we've been hearing. And just ask, starting with you, Mheshimiwa Kibagendi, we sit here 2 years away from the election. There's still so much work to be done. Of course, if you listen to Kenyans who've been expressing themselves quite loudly, if you have to talk about the protests that have been going on, how then do we use the institutions that we have to deal with the challenges we witness while also not risking the lives and property of the people, even when it comes to the election of 2027?
Thank you, Sam. Glad to be here this morning. Indeed, Kenya is in a political crisis that has been that has happened because we have a president who forgot why he actually got elected to office, and a president who has decided to infect everyone that is intimately associated with him with enormous arrogance, with a lot of incompetence. A president that has decided to allow himself and the people around him to be reckless, like the newspapers are saying, to the extent no work is being done, particularly at the top. And this is happening because of inappropriate choices that were made by the president himself, and again with those that are, like I said, intimately associated with him. In the political sense, in that when the president got into office, instead of focusing on urgent and practical areas that needed transformation, his focus was around areas that he would create business opportunities for himself and his friends. And that has generated a lot of heat from Kenyan workers to their dependents.
What do you mean business for himself and his friends?
You see, when you look at areas that the president is struggling to try and make sense out of, like the housing projects, we know sincerely, even after doing public participation, it was not an urgent project. But because these are areas that they would make a kill out of, business-wise, he forced it to come to be. And it has injured the pay slips of a majority of Kenyan workers, which...
Working with Parliament?
Kenyan workers, as in Kenyan workers.
I'm saying...
Yes.
You're saying he forced it?
He forced it.
But he worked with Parliament on it?
He worked with Parliament, and you know, Parliament has become an appendage of the executive. We no longer have... the 13th Parliament is such a monumental embarrassment to this country. We have no independence from the leadership in Parliament. You see a Speaker of the National Assembly attending events of Kenya Kwanza. to do the unfortunate empowerment programs. A speaker who is supposed to be independent, who is supposed to be removed from the regular murky political games that we politicians are involved in. Members of parliament that have decided to, this kind of reckless talk comes particularly from members of parliament who've given up on their duty and are, sorry to say, I almost used an unfortunate term on TV, but members of parliament who have decided to become surrogates of the executive and the leadership of Kenya Kwanza, which has created animosity with the people who voted us into office. The people who voted us into office...
So is there a solution? Because the election is too far.
Let me tell you.
Okay, not too far, but 2 years.
From the look of things, Kenyans have resigned to fate. They have said, let's wait for them. Let's wait for them in 2027 and deal with them. A lot can be done. But when you realize that those close to the president, the deputy president, have decided to use shortcuts and come up with games of things they call empowerment to bribe Kenyans with our taxpayers' money, because we know the president's pay, we know the amounts of money members of parliament earn, and we even know some of them, the businesses they are associated with. Where do they get the money? They go around dishing, let me not call it dishing, bribing voters. You see, we have lost it as a country. The president doesn't want to look at the urgent and practical things that he can do to change the living standards of Kenyans. Okay. Look, the major things, look here, that housing project. Number two, the issue of social health care, where I can tell you, I sit in the health committee, I can tell these were unfortunate schemes. They thought it would work because they did not work around it properly. They didn't do proper research. They keep improving it as they move, but it has totally refused to work because it was also geared towards ensuring certain people make certain...
Sorry, I need to transition to the others, but what do you mean it has totally refused to work? I hear reports of patients saying they have been...
You know, SHA...
Service.
You know, I want to tell you.
Yeah.
SHA is a scam. That is the truth. Number one, from even the making of the laws that brought SHA to being. That is one. Number two, the purchasing or the cost of the SHA system. 104 billion Kenya shillings, that is outright theft. The most sophisticated systems in this country, even the military systems, even Safaricom systems, even KRA systems, did not cost that much.
And I have to keep reminding you, Mheshimiwa Kibagendi, that you attended a meeting in Mombasa that gave a clean bill of health. And
I never did. I'm the only member of parliament, myself and our chairman, Nikal, we said no.
You attended a meeting and your committee, health committee, okayed it.
But you know, we are 15 members of parliament. When they say the committee, parliament has passed something, or a committee has passed something, it is the majority that have passed it. It is not, it doesn't mean that everyone was involved. Look here, what we are saying is this. The problem we have in this country is the executive's infiltration into government procurement processes and the greed of those at the top and the people associated with people from State House. That is why we are in this problem. Okay. They decided to do politics to the extent they went on to...
We're just starting the show. We'll get into the details shortly. Mheshimiwa Wamushomba, talk to us about, because we've heard, and I think first let's listen to what Moses Wetangula, the Speaker of the National Assembly, told some audience over the weekend.
Nyinyi ndugu zetu wa Trans Nzoia, hasa jamii ya Wakalenjin, nyinyi ndio mnamzaa William Ruto. Na mumeona vile anachezewa. The first and last line of defense ya rais wetu. Mtu akija hapa na maneno ambaye haeleweki, mwambie wewe ngojea wakati wako ukifika utasema maneno yako.
We the Kalenjin nation delayed the colonization of this country by 15 years. Wazungu wangekuwa hii dunia by 1905. Sisi ndio tulifanya wakakosa kufika mpaka 20s. Wewe unatuambia tulipigania uhuru. If you continue, and I want to caution the Mount Kenya nation. Mukiendelea namna hiyo, we are going to do an audit of what has happened in this country for the last 10 years.
So that's Speaker of the National Assembly and the Senator of Uasin Gishu speaking there. What have we come to? Because there appears to be a heightened mobilization of ethnic communities in the country, and not just by the side of Kenya Kwanza, but also the opposition. If you had to look at what Rigathi Gachagua has been doing, whether it's in the mountain or in the US, what is this supposed to achieve?
Good morning, Sam, and good morning to our viewers and my panelists, my colleagues. It's very unfortunate that Sam, in this day and age, we are speaking about tribalism. Having been victims of tribalism and effects of tribalism in the history of this country. I was in this compound in 2004, 2005. I served as a radio presenter in this compound under the enterprises of Royal Media. And we documented what happened pre-2007, 2008, post-election violence. And the same rhetoric, the same pronouncement, the same tribal mobilization, the same threats is what I am registering today. And I'm a very worried Kenyan. So worried because the trends that happened in 2007, 2008 are actually duplicated at a higher magnitude than we did then. And it's very unfortunate that the people who are the front line in calling out this tribal mobilization are none other than people of, society respect, people who are opinionated, people who are elected, people who are holding offices as duty bearers, but they are the same people who are using their offices to propagate this kind of tribal hate. Some, as I sit here as a mother, I'm mourning. I'm mourning a girl who was caught by a bullet while she was watching TV in her home in Kirigoine village of Dumberi, Kiambu County. I'm actually going to the funeral after this. Some are mourning another boy who was shot in the stomach as he went to buy oranges across the street. I have mourned for the last 1 month because we have buried quite many young people. Some that were actively involved in the riots, others who were just at the premises of their homes, and they were caught by the bullets. And even with all this happening, leaders are not seeing this. It is so unfortunate that the president of all, those killed, not killed, maimed, not maimed, the president of all has not even come out to say, I am sorry, as the head of state. I am sorry, whether he's responsible or not responsible, because he is the father of the nation. And so when I see my Speaker of the National Assembly speak the way he's speaking, somebody who is supposed to be independent, holding an office that is completely supposed to be out of active politics, partisan politics, speaking the way he's speaking, telling the Kalenjin people that you must defend your son, as if the president is a Kalenjin son. The president is a father of the whole nation. He's supposed to be defended and protected by everybody. How can the speaker tell one community to defend the president? I remember, Sam, if I am not wrong, there was one time I sat here. I think it was hardly 2 months after we are elected. I sat on this table. And Rigathi Gachagua went somewhere in the mountain and spoke about, you Kikuyus must defend this government because you have made this government through your 47% power of the vote. Do you remember? And everybody was saying, Gachagua is now telling the people of the mountain that they own the government and they must protect the president. He was telling us to protect the president who does not come from our community. And we bashed him. Even me, I told him off. I told him no. The president is the father of the nation. You cannot tell one community to defend him. What will the other communities do? So I think we need to be called out. The political class must be called out for what it has become. They must be reminded that they were the active players in 2007 PEV situation. And if they are not called out, Sam, I'm very worried. Because we are going to duplicate what happened in 2007. And I'm very, very disappointed with the women rep for Wajir. I'm very disappointed with that young parliamentarian. She's my colleague, and I must call her out for what she has become, a puppet. You cannot be a leader who every young girl is looking up to as a mother, as a woman, and all you can say is that we are going to steal votes, a woman, for heaven's sake. I'm not trying to say that that is supposed to be allowed to be said by men, but it is less expected, especially from a religious woman like she is. On the podium talking about testing out how they're going to steal votes, that is a red flag, Sam.
Okay.
And I'm very worried that that red flag, there are people who are enjoying and reaping out of those red flags. The more the people who are speaking the way they are speaking speak out, the more moneyed they are fueled. What is the motivation of a member of parliament to struggle to go to the podium to speak the way they are speaking? It's like they are competing who is going to be more lethal than the other. Who is going to release more antidotes than the other?
For us to understand...
it's the money that they are getting from whoever is giving them the money. That is why they have the energy and the vigor to speak the way they are speaking, arrogantly, without even taking care of human rights.
So there's money here?
Of course. Yes. A lot of money.
How much?
Every other meeting that is happening. Last weekend, there were 2 meetings in Kiambu. The money they left behind in Roiru. People fought over the money. I'm sure you saw the aftermath of the meeting that happened in Roiru. People are fighting over money. People are fighting over the goodies that were left. It is all about money. So these members of parliament are not speaking the way they are speaking now because they believe in what they are saying. It is because they want to be told, oh, today you have spoken well, you have unleashed. And the more you unleash, the more moneyed you become.
Let's listen to, so that we don't misquote her, Fatuma Jeho on what she said, so that we understand whether it's an okay statement. Watch.
Sisi maneno yetu ni mafupi tu. Tunasema tu 2 term. Ama kuna maneno mengine? 2 term. Sio? Si tunangojea tu debe iletwe hata kama hatutakuwa na votes tutamuibia. Hiyo si siri. Asanteni.
She says that with a smile. Mheshimiwa Omondi, you've been around for a couple of elections. What is that? Is it just a reckless, or it's coming from a well-informed point?
Thank you very much, Sam. It is not only reckless, but it paints a picture of what the reality with our political class is. Such reckless talk or ethnic mobilization has been with us for a very long time. Actually, if you go far back, in 1969, when Thomas Mboya was assassinated, even the church participated in oathing of the few Kikuyu elites from Kiambu. Not all the Kikuyu community, but those who felt threatened by the consequences of Mboya's assassination. And they oathed and they said, you must stick with the president. Yet Mboya himself was elected by Kikuyus. If you look at the first votes Mboya ever got, he only got about 3,000 Luo votes. 20-something were Kikuyu votes in Kamkunji here. But when he was assassinated, the elites of the time mobilized even churches to take an oath. So we've had this for a long time. If you remember the time of Moi, there was somebody called Leitich in Nakuru, who was a KANU chairman, who said those of us who are doing the 2-finger salute, we should have their fingers chopped. I think you may recall that. When we had the ICC issue in 2013, the running call was that Kikuyus must protect Uhuru Kenyatta. He should not go to jail like his father did. And the Kalenjins must protect William Ruto. It has always been there. And if you look at even my own party, ODM, when they come to Nyanza, the mobilization is about, if you are not with us, you are with them. It's about ethnicity. And even currently, if you look at some of my ODM colleagues, the recklessness with which they speak in defense of the broad-based government is really worrying. So this has been with us for a very long time. And it is not something that we can say we have not tried to address. We have the Constitution. If you look at Article 6, our national values, There are attempts to address it. We have the Leadership and Integrity Act. We have the National Cohesion. Oh, we have done a lot of work. But why are leaders continuously behaving in this manner? I think the problem is the way people are now accessing positions of leadership in this country. And also the educational system. I think a lot of people have come into leadership with immaturity and lack of experience. It is not so far away that 1,300 people were killed in this country in 2008, and 2007 December and 2008 January. It is not so long ago that people were killed in Molo, yeah, if you remember the 2002 elections, or in Makueni, if you remember, or even most recently in Kilifi. But we seem to have a leadership that is completely unaware of our history and the challenges. And personally, this has been worrying me, and I've tried to propose that we incorporate in our national curriculum something called nationhood science. And actually, I think the bill has been approved for publication when we go back. Why am I saying so? So that we can start preparing people to be good, responsible citizens of Kenya. From kindergarten all the way to university, we teach them the ethos that make a great nation. I think there's a problem. Many of our people have found themselves in leadership, which they are not prepared for. We also have a public that, for one reason or the other, does not understand what nationhood is. So this reckless talk will be with us for a while, but for me the solution is inculcating these values through our educational system from a young age all the way through, so that we understand what democracy is and how democracy works, and the consequences of ethnic mobilization. I don't see, if you look at the nation, all the faces are on one side of the political divide. I think they're also very reckless speakers on the other side of the political divide. Right. So it is a national crisis. Yeah, thank you.
All right, and you get to further details because there's something interesting you're saying about how people are accessing leadership positions. Mheshimiwa Kitani, what do you think is the challenge? Because we will shortly be hearing from one of your colleague MPs, Nelson Koech from Belgut, on what he had to say. What is the challenge? Why are we speaking the way we are?
First and foremost, thank you very much for inviting me into the studio today. Let's start with what is presidency and why do we elect a president? Presidency is a symbol of national unity. And we as Kenyans, when we elect somebody into office, then we should look at that person as a symbol that is going to unite all of us and unite us in a manifesto, in an agenda. Because the reason many of us get into office is we sell agenda and say we want to develop, we want to do this and this for the common mwananchi. But what happens is when we get into office, and I'm not talking about just political leaders, I'm also talking about even those appointed, or even those who are interviewed and get into a position that they are going to lead a certain type of people, they forget why they get into that particular office for the reasons they did and serve a different purpose. And that is where we are right now because we are political leaders. And I think each and every one of us will go back to our grounds, so we went to our grounds and convinced our voters, our electorate to say, give me this position, I will do this for you. I think it is incumbent on the electorate to also now hold us to account for whatever it is that we told them we are going to do. And at the national level, for the presidency, for the presidency, it's about the electorate that he says he was going to serve. If you remember the elections of 2022, it was about empowering the young person or the person on the bottom of the pyramid to move up. And as you empower the bottom of the pyramid to move up, of course, others get to the bottom of the pyramid. So each and every time, we are trying to improve the livelihoods of the people that we are trying to serve. And therefore, how then do we get to such rhetorics? In my view, I think it's some of them are reckless. But more importantly, I think it is about also the kind of crowd and the kind of people you get. You know, as a politician, sometimes you get to a crowd and you get excited about the crowd that you have, not forgetting that whatever it is that you say is going to affect another person who is not in that crowd on that day, but actually is going to impact, like the rhetorics that were done by the women rep. Yeah. I think for me, I agree with Wamushomba that was a bit reckless, and I agree with the panelists was reckless. And even the thought of saying we are going to steal votes, that should never come from any leader, because first and foremost, we don't even have the access to steal the votes. We are not IBC. We are not the referee. We are, like everybody else, going to depend on somebody else to manage these elections, and we have nothing to do with that. Right. So when we make such rhetorics, then we are actually either balkanizing the nation or raising temperatures that are not necessary at this stage. Okay. And as you can see, it's all sides of the divide that are actually raising or talking recklessly, which as a nation, we need to come together and say we need to stop. Okay. And I'm happy with
let me disrupt you a little bit. I'll get back with you because we need to take a short break. When I come back, we'll continue the conversation and also hear some of the voices that have been coming from the opposition, including Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who now says the solution is one term. After the break.